Hello and welcome to the We All Follow podcast. My name is Matt Fox. I'm your host. It is festive season, Nigel. Do you have all your wife's gifts already?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Always get them early.
That's what I like to hear, my friend. I secured three-quarters of them. I have one left to get. And I'm late. I usually do it in November before December starts. That's usually my goal. So I can't forget it and mess it up. But here we are.
Are you a
It's
are you a shopper on Cyber? Are you a Cyber Monday stroke Black Friday partner shopper?
I dabble. I dabble in some deals. You know what I mean? It's a bad habit, but I you will find me there, digitally, of course. It's the 20th of December. It's almost Christmas. Nigel, after people follow us on X at all we all follow pod, what should they put in the comments for their moment of the week?
I mean, last weekend was a lot of bad moments, weren't it? For a lot of us. But it's Christmas, and Christmas is about rejoicing and family and celebrating and the birth of Jesus Christ. And we witnessed a rebirth of Jesus Christ at Arsenal on Wednesday. They were singing it from the rooftops. It was like Public Enemy and He Got Game. Jesus, Jesus. Yeah, it was
Mr.
honestly
Shuttlesworth.
Jesus Shuttlesworth. You know, yeah, it was unbelievable. I mean,
If you've been living under a rock, Gabriel Jesus had a hat trick against Crystal Palace in the EFL Cup this week.
having not scored, I think he scored one goal all year.
He scored a one goal in the last round.
But yeah, and it was just. I said to some of the guys outside afterwards before I went to get on the tube to go home. I talked to a few of the guys who I talk to regular, and I just said it was it. What struck me was Jesus usually when he's through on goal, if he's got time to think about what he needs to do to finish, he misses.
He's cooked.
He's an instinctive finisher, someone who just if he's got to do it quickly, he'll score. And he had time on all three occasions to pick a finish, and every single one of them. I mean, the second and third goals, virtually identical where they hit the ball where the ball hit the net. You probably come millimeters difference, two completely different finishes, but millimeters difference. And the chip was just glorious. It was just such a good finish, ridiculously good finish. To ride the tackle, I mean, he could have gone down and got a penalty, but to ride the tackle and the finish was unbelievable.
Gabriel Jesus turning water into wine for Arsenal. The first half was definitely water.
Oh,
It was pretty painful. And we'll get into that later, though. Let's get into my moment of the week, which is Manchester City 1, Manchester United 2. And it's disappointing because Sean's not even here to revel in his short. I mean, he only really had like 3 days of happiness before his soul was crushed back into his body after an amazing result against Spurs. One that featured Lisandro Martinez rushing a limping Heung-min Son over to the corner for Son to put it directly into the back of the net. Spurs into the semifinals of a competition. I think it's been a while. I guess they made it. They made it in the semifinals of the Champions League. Domestic competitions, I think it's been a little bit longer. They will be facing a two-legged semifinal against Liverpool Football Club of Liverpool, while the Arsenal Football Club of London will be facing Newcastle United Football Club in the other semifinal, two-legged semifinal that will be taking place in January. But in terms of derbies, Manchester United came through with a 88th minute Bruno Guimaraes penalty. And I'm sorry, I'm thinking Newcastle. 88th minute Bruno Fernandes penalty and a 90th minute Amad Diallo winner. What was your takeaways from the big derby?
The Middlechester derby. Middlechester. Yeah, I mean, I had someone say Middlechester. Someone said it was Banchester derby. I mean, God, that was that. I tweeted it last night. Watching Tottenham versus Man United, it was like watching two championship sides in terms of level of quality because there was just so many mistakes everywhere, all over the pitch. It was just rank football. And you watch that Manchester City versus Man United game, and it was pretty much the same. City, wow, just dire. Absolutely, they have gone. They have lost all sense of what they are trying to do on a football pitch. And Man United, I mean, I don't know what the fans are saying. Oh yeah, I can see what we're doing. We're a lot better. We're a lot better. I can't see anything what we're doing. I can see a formation. And that's it. The players look like they are, apart from Amad Diallo, who's playing in more of a position what suits him. Rest of them just look middle, the meter. And that game, that was hard on the eyes. That was sore on the eyes. I mean, it was that boring at a centre glass eye to sleep, wasn't it? But apart from the last 5 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we anticipated having ups and downs with Emran coming into Man United, but did you think it would be this up and this down?
No, I thought he'd come in and I thought straight away he would try to steady the ship, which would mean quickly identifying which players fit his system and which players don't, and then pretty much going with that team for riding that team as long as he can in terms of minutes, etc., and trying to get a stable base. All right. I thought he'd be very pragmatic. I didn't think he'd try to force too much the ideas and play, but just try and get set on something. And you've seen him tinkering with the players here and there and trying to find who works and who doesn't. I mean, pretty much from the outside, you could tell who'd work. Everyone knew that Harry Maguire's got to start at centre back for him because Matthias de Ligt, he's got no ball skills. And if you're playing three at the back, you need a centre back who's got ball skills. And de Ligt's got none. He ain't got any. So everyone knew that Maguire got to start, but he didn't. He played de Ligt and then they struggled to progress the ball. He binned off Ugarte when he was at Sporting. He upgraded him for Hjulmand. He's having to work with Ugarte now, but then he hasn't got someone to play at the side of him because as a very, 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 very well-placed source at Man United said before we got Amorim, if we get Amorim, then it's likely that Kobbie Mainoo will fall through the gap because he doesn't fit either as the progressive passing six or as the one of the twin tens. He don't play with an 8. He plays with 2 6s and 2 10s. So he's got, and he don't fit in either of them. So that was a problem. That was a problem for Mainoo, and I tweeted it out and I said, look, he could after this all said it could fall through the gap, and he's not starting. He's not starting any games. Oh, and you got Man U fans. Oh, he's managing his minutes. No, managing minutes is slowly bringing him back in after an injury. Not starting him for about 6 games straight. That ain't managing minutes. That's you don't fit my system, and I need to start with this. And my source, the source said it'll be Ugarte and Casemiro, or Ugarte and Eriksen, or even Ugarte and Fernandes. Playing Fernandes deeper because they need that progressive passer. He'd play Ugarte or Casemiro if he needed, if it was a battle game. But if you notice, Casemiro's hardly had any minutes. It's mostly been Eriksen. and Fernandes in there. But yeah, and it surprised me. It has surprised me. But it keeps surprising me. It keeps tinkering with M10s. Amad Diallo should be one and Fernandes should be the other. But he'll play Mason Mount because, as my source said, this will be Mason Mount's rejuvenation period where he'll play with Diallo and they'll probably play Fernandes deep. That's happened. It's happened. And the biggest losers are Garnacho and Rashford. They don't fit. They're going to be subs. Rashford will be gone anyway. So, but yeah,
it seems like Rashford has already kind of cut the horse off at the pass and made his statement about about being on his way out, which is an interesting tactic in the PR world that is professional football, particularly as it pertains to Manchester United and Marcus Rashford standing as one of their longtime players. Somebody who's had his name sung in that stadium for quite some time, and to be cast away into his house to asking what should I watch on TV while the game's on is not great. And it would be very funny to see him go somewhere else and ball out, potentially in Arsenal.
You see it happen all the time. You see it happen all the time. Disgruntled star boy or academy graduate who's come through and been a great or been a good player for you, and you all the fans had got huge respect for him when he comes through, and then all of a sudden that relationship sours and they go somewhere else and they become a different level. It happens all the time.
I mean, even when it's not a storied youth player, right? You saw it happen with Roberto De Zerbi and Leandro Trossard, who three right before the transfer window, it started bubbling up that there was unhappiness. They put a price tag on him. Arsenal scooped him up, and he came in and had what? 6 assists. He had like a crazy number of assists the first year, and then he switched the assist to goals and had a sick number of goals the next season. So, I think it's hard for people to understand. They're like, oh, these players are getting paid so much. Of course you bring your best to work every day. But the reality is they're humans, right? And if you go to work in a toxic work environment for long enough, you're not going to bring your best, right? And I don't care whether you're a plumber or a builder or a banker. If you work in a toxic work environment for long enough, you're not going to show up as your best self.
I was having this conversation on X with someone, and they said like, I wouldn't want Marcus Rashford at Arsenal because he's displaying all the traits of a quitter. I was whoa. In real life, if you worked in a job where every day you turned up, it was like a chore because the boss, the boss don't like you, the new boss. The new boss has basically already said you're not going to be here in a year's time, or at least a year's time. I don't see you as part of my future, as part of a business's future plans. Do you still go in and put 100% in? So the answer was, well, I would go and put 100% in for my team and my colleagues. Half your colleagues don't like you either, or you don't like them. Yeah, you're talking rubbish. Yeah, if you're in a toxic work environment, you ain't putting 100% in at all. You're checking out, and you are waiting for the day when you can leave.
Especially when you are in training, right? One mistake, one person going a little bit faster than you into a challenge could mean a career-ending injury. Like, we both like fight sports, right? And there's that saying like, you don't play boxing. You know what I mean? And in training, like, people like to joke it's training, but if you ever seen the Arsenal training videos, those guys are going 1,000 miles an hour because they are trying to earn their spot for that weekend. And the moment that you pull out of a challenge, that's when you do your ACL.
I've been in that environment. I've been in that football environment when I was younger, and the one thing what stuck with me from when I was like 16, 17, when you step up from training with the youth teams to start training with the actual seniors, and I'll never forget the first time that I went senior training, and they said, "Listen, we practice how we play. We don't take this light. This is full speed. We practice how you play. If you don't practice how you play, how will you ever play at that level? And that stuck with me all the way through. I say that exact thing now to my kids under 10 team at training. I'll say, what we're doing, we practice how we play. Everything is about game everything is in a game situation. Everything's a game situation. And if you're not doing it at full speed, you get hurt, or you suffer, or you're not good enough. And Rashford's in a place now where I don't think he's going 100%, and I think everyone knows it. But I still think there's a player there. He just needs proper coaching. He needs someone to properly coach him, because he's been overlooked by a string of managers who've consistent. I mean, Man United consistently bought someone in over the top of him. He came through as an 18-year-old scoring goals. Then they bought Lukaku over him. Then they bought Ibrahimovic over him. They even brought Odi and Igalo over him. Then they brought Ronaldo over him. Yeah. Cavani came in over him. Yeah. They got all these old players who they brought in over him and didn't coach him. And I just think, and I'm not saying Arsenal will go for him, but I'm just thinking and I don't want us. I know this is a pod for adults, and we can try to keep the chat clean. Though we are not Save a Ho FC, yeah, we are not Save a Ho FC. We can't be that. But Mikel loves to save a ho, yeah, and I could just see Arsenal going out. I could see him putting an arm around him and saying, "Right, listen to me, and I'll make you great again." I think Rashford, I think it'd just be ridiculously good for Arsenal, but that's my choice.
I mean, the reality is that yes, Arteta does love a reclamation project, as we all know. The reality is if you look at the statistics of his performances, you know, he's finishing at minimum in the league at or slightly above XG, right?
Mm.
And even the last 2 years when he hasn't played as much, and he's suffered from injuries, but that you don't just like go pick that person off the rack, right? Like, and that's not like 1 year he finished hot and then next year it's like consistently, you know what I mean? So
he's a finisher, Matt. That is a finish. He's a finisher. He does not miss chances.
The reality is if I'm in the Arsenal transfer center and I'm looking at, okay, risk to reward profile, I have this player who I could potentially bring in on a pretty cheap cost for a transfer fee, and then we can look to get him on reduced wages by maybe a performance laden deal, not a super long deal, but maybe some options on the team side, and then see where it goes. I mean, I don't know.
That's what you look for. But I mean, my source was great. I mean, you were in the group, but a week before it's all come out that he said he wanted to leave, I told you all he's going to say he wants to leave, because it was and he was going to say he wants to leave, and I told you a week before he did. I said before he left that he was going to leave because of the call what they had. And the rumored price is 35 to 45 million, because Man U know they can't come and demand 65, 70 million, because someone's got to take.
They have a distressed asset.
Someone's got to take his 350 grand wages as well, unless they can negotiate a good deal with Rashford that, look, we will take you and we will make you back into a superstar again, but you need to do it on our terms, accept our wages, and we'll reward you when, not if, we will reward you when you hit that peak again.
Yeah, well, let's keep it moving. That's enough of Man United and Rashford talk for the time being. As much as I do love those topics of conversation, let's get into the table. So we are heading into game week 17. Everybody has played 16 matches with the exception of Liverpool, who remain in first on 36 points. Chelsea have closed the gap to 2 on 34. Arsenal have kept the same distance, with matching the result of Liverpool. They're on 30 points in third place. Forest moving and remaining in fourth place on 28. Then you have Man City, Bournemouth, Aston Villa, Fulham, Brighton, and Spurs rounding out the top 10. Bottom half of the table, you have Ipswich, Wolves and Southampton in the drop zone. Ipswich starting to pull away from Wolves and Southampton and potentially might be the team that has a chance of staying up. We have Brentford in 11th, Newcastle in 12th, Man United still managing to linger in 13th despite the win this past weekend. West Ham, Crystal Palace, and Everton. Everton getting a much needed point against Arsenal at the Emirates this past weekend, and Leicester in 17th, conceding lots of shots. As you noted, I think as either in the group or on Twitter, Leicester conceding quite a bit. Last week's results, Nigel, is there anything else you wanted to touch on? We had Arsenal obviously drew with Everton at home. We had the Fulham, Liverpool Fulham draw. Liverpool got a red card. They still managed to score 2 goals. Newcastle 4, Leicester 0. Ipswich beating Wolves 2-1. Forest getting a big home win against Aston Villa.
Yeah.
Palace beating Brighton away 3-1. Obviously, we talked about the Manchester derby. Chelsea beating Brentford at home. Spurs 5-0 away at Southampton. And then finally, Bournemouth 1, West Ham 1. Any notes from there?
Weird week for results. I mean, I was at Arsenal Everton. That was a dire game of football. I mean, Everton just did nothing. All game, nothing. Absolutely nothing. But as bad as what Everton were, Arsenal were just as bad because we just created nothing. But the bit what did me, Mikel's substitutions were just awful substitutions. Didn't work at all. And yeah, I don't want to say, you don't want to say in middle of December that something's not going to happen. In order for Arsenal to win this league now, we definitely need Chelsea and Liverpool to fall off. I think that'll happen. I do think that'll happen at some point. I think they'll fall back to us. But currently, I don't see Arsenal being consistent enough to actually keep it up. Because
I think you get to a point where the margin for error is so small.
Yeah.
It's not statistically impossible. It's not mathematically impossible, but it's becoming improbable. And you're not typically when you have those runs that are coming, you can see it coming, right? You might be performing but not getting results, and then you go on a run because the results and the performances coalesce.
I'll tell you what though, if Arsenal win their next 4 games, they will have 2 more points than what we did at the same stage last season. Believe it or not. Because after 20 games last season, they'd won 12, drawn 4, lost 4. If we win the next 4 games, they'll have won 12, drawn 6, lost 2. So they'll have 2 more points after 20 games. We'll have 42 points.
But the issue was then you went on a Man City-esque run. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but that can happen. We've done it twice. We started the
Anything
season.
Can happen.
We started the season in 22-23, won 16, drawn 2, lost 1, and we ended last season 1-16, drawn 1, lost 1. So it can happen. It can happen, but we need to win these next 4 games first. And the next 4 games are winnable. Palace away, we just beat their first team with arguably half our second team on Wednesday, and it was their first 11 what they put out, which surprised me that they played them for over an hour. We should beat Ipswich.
The day after Boxing Day, Ipswich at home.
Yeah.
Then you have at Brentford on the 1st.
Yeah, Brentford away is going to be tough, but I still fancy us getting a win there. And then I think the next game after that is either Villa. Is it Villa at home?
It's Brighton away.
Brighton away, and then Villa at home. Yeah. So
nope, and then it's Spurs.
Spurs at home.
Because Spurs is the midweek game that got rescheduled.
Yeah, Spurs at home. So yeah, I still fancy us to get wins. I mean, Palace going to Brighton and winning was a surprise. It didn't. That did surprise me. Ipswich beating Wolves surprised me. Got Gary O'Neill the sack. Not surprised Southampton got battered by Tottenham. Southampton, the worst team I've ever seen in the Premier League. They're the worst team I've seen so far in the Premier League. Genuinely. I thought Sheffield United were bad last year, but Sheffield United at least had some fight. Southampton haven't got any. The other result, what kind of I thought Forest against Villa was a massive result. To be 1-0 down with 5 minutes left and to win 2-1 was huge for Forest. And Forest now have got belief. And if you was in a coma, if you'd been in a coma for 6 months and you woke up now and you looked at the league table and saw Forest above Man City, you'd be like, what fresh hell is this? I mean, it's wild. It's even that wild. It's even that wild as it is. If Bournemouth would have beat West Ham 3-0 on Monday, Bournemouth would have been above Man City.
Crazy times, man.
Yeah. Anyway.
Well, that brings us into this week, which, you know, I think brings some pretty interesting fixtures. Let's start off with the match that's going to be starting the weekend, which is Aston Villa hosting Man City. Now, as we've discussed previously, Man City are, as the kids would say, in the mud. Do they have a chance against the Unai's villains?
So every week I pick high. I seem to get the high scoring game correct, don't I? Every week I get the high scoring game correct. Aston Villa versus Man City. Even though City are struggling, I think we'll score a few. The only problem is, I think Aston Villa will score more. I think Villa will beat City, and I think it's going to be a game where we kind of start to see City click a little bit going forward, only because Villa are struggling defensively and in midfield. I think it's going to be a high-scoring Villa win. That
you heard it here first. High-scoring Villa win, continuing to inflict pain on Pep Guardiola.
Question though, Matt. If City lose, and then I think their next game after that is tough as well.
I can tell you momentarily.
I think the next game
Man City play Everton at home. That's their next match.
Okay. So that could be a ball fest.
After that, I mean, they have a. After this match, they play Everton on Christmas Eve at home. They play Leicester away on the 29th, and then they host West Ham on the 4th.
Yeah.
Then they go into the FA Cup against Salford. So they honestly they do have a kind of runway to get their shit in order.
But imagine lose to Villa and then lose to Everton. Does Pep get the sack?
No, I don't think that it's possible for Pep to get sacked.
I'm sorry, but everyone can be sacked.
Okay, everybody can be sacked. Do you think? I think. Okay, so when you're Pep Guardiola, right? The sacking is not. It has nothing to do with the results. It has to do with your ability to manage the dressing room, right? So, do you think that Pep has lost the dressing room? Let's start there.
Yes, I think he has started to lose it. Yeah, I think there's. You can tell on the pitch that players aren't all on the same page. Now, I used to look at Man City. Yes, we're a good football team, but I used to look at them and I used to think every single player knows exactly what their job is. Every single player knows what the other person's job is, and every single one of them was marching in the exact. They were like a North Korean military show. The steps were all together. You know what I mean? Every single one of them is synchronized.
The choreographed. Have you seen the North Korean football match where they have like the cards and they're like doing the choreographed dance? I think it's amazing. I'll actually put it in the show notes for today. So if you haven't gotten to see that glorious representation of our glorious leader Kim Jong Un,
our PKR, but that's what they were like. And I look at them now, and they are all going in different directions, arguing on the pitch. You can tell that people are missing assignments. People are missing the assignments. There's jogging. As soon as people start jogging, they've given up. Something's gone. And you can see that Pep, I think his wounds, what he's self-inflicting now, I actually think that this is him tearing his. He's got no hair, so he can't tear it out, can he? So he just digs his nails in his head. I think this is Pep saying, "What you done that for? I didn't tell you to do that. And he's having to do that for 5 or 6 different players at the same time. And people said when Arsenal got Saliba injured in that running in 22-23, are you a one-man team? You got to suck it up. When we got Ødegaard injured beginning of this season, oh, you need to suck it up. When Jesus got injured when we were top of the league, oh, you need to suck it up. Are you a one-man team? Man City are Rodri FC. Rodri's disappeared off that pitch, and they have become average. One player. Everyone else gone. I mean, even Erling Haaland. Haaland now looks like Dan Burn up front. So yeah, done.
I mean, I think, I'm an armchair psychologist in my spare time, and when you're running, the intensity that you have to run at to get the most out of these guys, whether you're a lovey-dovey guy or you're a Conte or a Mourinho, either ends of those spectrums, like either one, the what you have to extract from people is so difficult. You have to get every last drop of their ability out. And again, whether you do it the nice way or you do it the mean way, it's really hard to do for a long period of time. And as we've discussed here before, when you're Kyle Walker and you lose half a step, right, and that your superpower evaporates, and you lose arguably one of the best players in football, and then couple that with having won it 4 times in a row, having I mean, even last year, I think you could see the cracks in the armor.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? You could see the way that the players were responding after the Madrid second leg at home. You could see how they were surprised that they won the league in the end. Like Rodri had his little speech about bottling it or whatever, but that was really more from a place of surprise that they managed to make it that far, rather than it was pontificating about how awesome they were. So it's just really hard to do that every year for however many years he's been doing it, and that's why part of the reason why he moves is because you get everybody going together, you win the stuff, and you got to keep it moving. And he's the only one that's been smart enough to keep it moving, because he knows that he can't get everything out of these guys for so long. And we're here.
Yeah, and this is the problem now. Teams grow old. Kevin De Bruyne is old. Gundogan has got no legs. Gundogan's legs are still in Barcelona. They're gone. Bernardo, he's just not. He's not got that element to him anymore. He's gone. And you look at the defence, and Diaz looks a step slower. Walker's definitely 2 steps slower. John Stones can't stay fit. Manuel Akanji was a bit of a surprise, to be fair. I didn't think he'd be as good as what he were when he came in. But now he's looking more like the player what I thought he'd be when he came from Dortmund. Not superb squad player. Nathan Ake can't stay fit. And Ederson is making mistakes in goal. And all of a sudden, your back looks shaky. You've got no one in midfield. And Pep started to disillusion the wide players. Who's playing? Doku, Grealish, Savio? We don't know. You don't know. And Grealish is done. He's finished him off. He's ruined him. Doku came in as his saviour. Can't get a game. And I think his entire team has come to an end. That entire team, the circle of life has ended. And there we go.
It kind of reminds me of the Patriots, NFL. Yeah. I know you're a big NFL guy. The Patriots, they were winning, and then one day they weren't. And it got ugly quick.
This is 100% ugly quick. And right now, I think Pep is in the last year of Bill Belichick style, where he's still remaining defiant. People still know that he's probably the greatest coach of all time. He's still got some of his star players, but they ain't playing. So Belichick in his last year, he still had McCourty, he still had Stephon Gilmore, he'd still got, Brady had gone, but he'd still got a lot of the other pieces what he had, especially on the defensive side. They just couldn't cut it, could they? So.
I mean, but again, like the similarities continue, right? Because Rodri is his Brady, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
with that piece, that doesn't matter who else you have around. They're all just bit part play. They're backup singers to you know what I mean? At the end of the day.
Yeah, Beyonce's gone and Solange's left. That's it.
I mean, but it's even funny. I'm thinking about it right now. Like, you had the parade of slot receivers under Belichick, right? Who one after another, all these white guys who were barely 6 feet tall that would show up out of nowhere, catch hundreds of yards, right? Crush it, and then disappear back into obscurity, right? And you have these players for Man City that they come, the wingers, they'll come, they have a good season, and then they disappear again, you know? And that's a system. But let's move on from there. There's a few other big matches, I would say. Obviously Spurs hosting Liverpool. Spurs on a bit of a run, you might say. Has Ange managed to avoid Christmas dinner unemployed?
No. Spurs are Spurs. I mean, the two centre halves are injured, aren't they? Romero and Van der Ven are injured, so it's going to be, and now Udogi is injured as well, so it's going to be probably the same back four as what played last night. Archie Gray, Radu Dragusin, Jed Spence, Pedro Porro. I mean, come on. Spurs are Spurs. It'll be entertaining. It'll be an entertaining game. Probably be high scoring like Villa City. But you never know Spurs are like a bag of Revels, aren't they? You take a bite, you don't even know which one it is. Yeah. Sometimes you get coffee and you spit it out. The other times you get toffee, you love it. So yeah, that's Spurs all over. I mean, the two games for me, what stand out. It's 3 games what stand out for me this week. Leicester Wolves. Wolves just sacked the manager. Leicester just took on a new manager. Wolves, good going forward, can't defend. Leicester, good going forward, can't defend. It's got 0-0 written all over it.
But no, that's got shootout written all over it, man.
It won't be a shootout. It'll be both teams to score. It'll be 1-1 or 2-2 because as many chances what Leicester have conceded over the last 4 games, I think it's up to like 103 shots or whatever they've had now in four games against them. They've only conceded a few. I mean, they've got 4 against Newcastle, but they've not been bad. So I still think Leicester will score. I think Wolves, Mateus Cunha is on fire at the moment and he's playing well. But I think he might be banned after the outburst after Ipswich. But you never know. But anyway, so I think that'll be a draw. But I think that'll be a proper championship style rumbunkus battle, like towards the top. The other 2 games, what stand out for me are West Ham against Brighton, where Lopetegui's kind of bought himself a little bit of time with some decent results. Brighton started off like a house on fire under Hertzler, and then all of a sudden they're starting to look a bit ropey. Me and Ben did say that Lewis Dunk makes Brighton ropey at the back. Lewis Dunk's come back, and they're starting to look ropey at the back.
What do you know?
But what do we know? They're also starting to struggle to score goals all of a sudden. All of a sudden, it's dried up for Welbeck. João Pedro's playing from wide, and now they're struggling. So they're another team who've got some great wide players, but they seem to be burning through them and not playing them consistently. So it'd be interesting to see what happens there. I actually fancy West Ham to get a result there. I think West Ham have turned the corner a bit. Fabianski's coming in goal instead of Areola, and he's been a bit more settled for him. And I think that Kilman and Mavropanos at the back are starting to build a bit of a partnership. People have panned Kilman, you know. Kilman was a decent defender at Wolves. he moved to West Ham in the summer, and I thought he'd kick on, and he struggled because the pieces around him have not been great. West Ham will start getting more results once we realise that we need more pace in the middle of a park. They currently play 3 players in the middle of a park, and none of them could run after a milk float and catch it. They are slow, yeah. So once we realise that they need a bit of pace in there, they'll become better. All of a sudden, Paquetá, Bowen have started clicking though, and that once you got Paquetá and Bowen clicking, you're always going to score
Friend of the
goals.
show, Jared Bowen.
Yeah. You're always going to score
So
goals.
I'll take Sean's role this week.
Yeah.
I'm going.
As Sean, you're picking my 3rd game.
Right, which is Brentford hosting Forest.
Oh, I would go Man U Bournemouth.
No way. That doesn't count because it's at the wrong time slot. We got to talk about the Saturday time slot, Nigel. Get it together, my friend. Saturday's games.
Yeah.
I will be tuning in to Brentford, Nottingham Forest, where we have a wonderful clash of teams that could genuinely this weekend could end with Forest in 3rd place, or it could end with Brighton as high as 6th place, depending on who wins this match. So it's really interesting this year because teams are taking points off of one another, and the middle of the pack is really tight. The distance between 13th and 5th is 5 points. Man United with a win, they could be as high as 7th. So it's pretty mad how it's all working out right now. That match, I'm what you might call a Thomas Frank stan, and I think he has really good game plans. They're a team that does typically performs pretty well at home. They will be playing this one at home. Forest on the road. Brentford can score goals. How do you think that one plays out from a tactical standpoint?
I mean, Forest are good defensively, though. That's the thing, Forest are super good defensively, which is expected from a Nuno team, because Nuno being an ex-goalie, and Wolves, when they first came up, Wolves were hard to beat. And he's slowly made Forest hard to beat. And I thought it was good what did he say? Unai Emery said the other day, when he said you can see an identity in Forest, and they have got an identity. Forest have got an identity. People confuse formations and stuff with identities. Forest have got a great identity where they are very, very physical at the back and in central midfield, but then they are a very, very good transition speed-based team. They'll beat you up at the back, and then they'll zip past you up front. And then they've got a big bulldozer up front who can score goals. He's not quick, but he's in the right place. And this combination of power and pace, P&P, is Nuno's got it spot on. And Brentford, exactly the same. A little bit more technical at the back, but they've also got that power and pace. And their front three, Sade and Buemo and Wissa, they are good. They are really, really good. And I think that's going to be the key. I think it'll be who can get the better of the other defence. Is it going to be Buemo, Sade on Wissa, or is it going to be Gibbs White, Hudson-Odoi, and Wood?
Don't forget the man who moonlights as the Count. 1, 2. That is Jota Silva, the man with the brows.
Yeah, Jack Grealish from Wish. But yeah, I mean, Midfield's going to be a minefield. Midfield will be a minefield in that game because, again, like I said, physical. Christian Norgard for Brentford,
He's been
Damsgaard,
playing really well.
Damsgaard as well, been playing very well for Brentford. And on the other side, you've got Rodriguez and Yates and Ward-Prowse. Ward-Prowse played in there a little bit, but it's mostly been Rodriguez and Yates for Forest. And
It'll be interesting. I've been following Ola Aina since we played him a few weeks ago, and I kind of try to pick out a player from the other team that I pay more attention to in the Arsenal game, and then see how they play against other teams. And he's been really strong going forward. He's really dynamic. He's got a good give and go. So it'll be interesting to see how they can attack from that situation as well.
yeah. I think the signing of the season. If I was to pick a signing of the season so far this year, Nikola Milenkovic at centre back for Forest would be in my top 5. I think he was great at Fiorentina. He was a captain at Fiorentina. He was fantastic. He's come to Forest. I thought the Premier League would be too quick for Milenkovic. Massively proved me wrong. He has been, him and Murillo at the back for Forest have been unbelievable.
Well, maybe that's something that we'll have to do at the end of the season. We'll do our top 5 transfers, top 5 buys. That'll be a fun one to do as we wrap up this season. Bournemouth heading to Old Trafford. Is it going to be another night for Ruben Amorim?
I'm afraid that Manchester United might find this a little difficult because Andoni Iraola has already got his paw prints all over Bournemouth, and they have got a defined style of play. They've got a very, very, very defined way of breaking teams down, and they have got everything attacking wise what Man United don't like. They've got everything what they don't want. So they've got 2 wide players who've got tons and tons of pace and power, and they've got a centre forward who is too good in the air for Martinez, and he's too quick on the ground for De Ligt and Maguire and Yoro. Yoro's quick, but I don't think Yoro's going to be anywhere near him. I think Evan Nielsen is going to cause them a lot of issues, and I do think that Ouattara, or it could be Ouattara, or it could be Clivert, but Semenyo on the other side are going to cause them issues, because if you're setting up in a 3-4-3, it means that Dalot and whoever else is playing, Mezraoui, who's playing the other wing back, you're either going to be penned in as a 5 at the back, or if you get caught upfield, it means that you can have Martinez up against Semenyo. That's dead.
That you know what that has? That has red card written all over it.
It has red card, or it has Martinez meme when he's facing the wrong way. Where it's got Martinez meme all over it. I think Brentford are just too good. I think Brentford will be too good for him.
You mean Bournemouth?
Bournemouth will be too good for him. And
I mean, you're looking at a team, and this is the other part of stages, right? You have a Bournemouth team that has been with their coach for a while, that has brought in some players, that has gotten healthy, has gotten some players back, right? Tyler Adams, who I forgot that he was even American, and he's come out of nowhere.
He's balling.
He's balling, and again, you have a team that's playing in a defined way. They know how they want to do it. They have the results in the bag to back it up. They know that they can do it. They're not going to be intimidated to go into Old Trafford. They're going to show up thinking that they're the better team, saying, hey, we're 6th in the table. We have the opportunity to go 4th. Let's go and get a big away statement win. And that they're on 3 wins and a draw in their last 4 fixtures. Yeah, so why wouldn't they think they could go up there and win?
It's just the only thing what worries me about Bournemouth is Kepa in goal. He's always got a clanger in him, but he's been all right this season. He's been good this season. But the back, the solid. Dean Hyson, he's in my top 5 buys as well. There's a lot of centre backs here. Dean Hyson in my top 5 centre back, top 5 buys. Great centre back. He'll be at an Arsenal, Liverpool, Chelsea, or whatever.
I mean, this is one of those teams where you look at them and you're like, half these guys are going to be at European clubs next year, whether that's in England or somewhere else.
But you look at that back line: Kirkes, Tavernier, Hyson, Cabana. It's quality. That's a great back 4, and then you got Christie, Scott, Adams in midfield, and then you can play Clivert, Semenyo, and Evan Nielsen in front of that, or you bring in Ouattara. You can play Adam Smith. They're so good. They Bournemouth, and Iraola's tactically sound as well. That's the thing, tactically sound. They're good from set pieces. What are Man United crap at? Defending set pieces. I just think Bournemouth will beat. I think Bournemouth have got too much for him, and I know that for Man United fans, you need to stay patient. I just wonder how much patience we've got if things are heading south quickly and don't seem to be improving. Yeah. Especially when under Ruud van Nistelrooy, caretaker, they won 4 out of 4.
I think, I really hope it works out. I have my gut is telling me that Dan Ashworth will have been proved right and the rest will have been proved wrong as it pertains to bringing Amarin in at this time. Not that he's not the right coach, not that he's not a good manager, because I believe he's a good manager and the results at his other clubs have shown that he's a great manager. But he's not. You're going to put him into a toxic environment where you lose a couple. I mean, Nigel, they could lose to Arsenal 3 times this season. Yeah. Like, how terrible would that be if you're a Man United fan?
I mean, if they win, if we beat them in the cup, that's their defense over. They're out of every competition. They're virtually out of every. I mean, they're still in the Europa League. Are they going to win the Europa League? No, not at all. But they'll be out of the league. They'll be out of both cups, and all of a sudden, season's pretty much over because even though they're in 13th, and there's not many points separating 13th to the top 6, 7 currently. I can only see that gap widening. And before this season started, I said either Man U or Chelsea would finish outside the top 10. One of them would finish outside the top 10. I think Man U could finish outside the top 10. If you finish outside the top 10, after sacking the manager, after bringing Amorim in, after spending 20 million to sack Ten Hag, I would class that as a disaster.
Yeah, it doesn't get much easier. I mean, it's funny because they had this thing going with Ten Hag where they would play 2 or 3 really good teams and they'd play an absolutely terrible team and beat them. And it was what I used to call the pressure release valve, where the pressure builds and then it gets let off because you beat a terrible team. So they just tumbled out of the cup. They have Bournemouth at Old Trafford. They go to Wolves, which they should win.
New manager bounce. Tell you now, Vitor Pereira comes in, new manager bounce.
So then after that, I mean, if they lose to Wolves, they're cooked because then it's Newcastle's coming to town. They're headed to Anfield, and then they have to head to the Emirates in the FA Cup on the 12th of January. And I mean, it could get ugly.
It could get ugly. It could get ugly for Man United. And I like Amorim as a manager. I thought he'd done great at Sporting. But that's Portuguese league. This is the Premier League. I said it when Ten Hag came in at Man United. I said it to a load of Man U fans who I know, and especially one's a season ticket holder, and I've known it. I've known him for 20 years. And we had a conversation, and he was like, "Oh yeah, we've just got he'll be great." And I went, "Managing the Dutch league ain't managing the Premier League." Yeah, but he got to the semi-finals of the Champions League. Went, that's a cup competition. That's a cup competition. That's not 38 games. that's not going up at least once every 3 weeks against one of the top 10 teams in Europe. Because if you're in the top 5 in the Premier League, you're probably in the top 10 teams in Europe. And you don't do that in the Dutch league, do you? Because at Ajax, he'd got 4 times, 4, 5, 6 times more money than everyone else to spend, and he got a free run at any player he wants, and that's it.
It's just so interesting how coaches' fortunes can change in such a short period of time. You know,
Yeah.
like we not that long ago, I probably the last time you were on here, we were talking about Eddie Howe and his fortunes. They had lost to drawn two out of in a row, loss, draw, draw, loss. They get a win last weekend. They win in the cup. Now they're in the semifinals of the cup, and they head out this weekend to play Ipswich, right?
Yeah.
And just that quickly, things can turn around. You host Villa next week in what's a big game for the northern part of the country, and you get a win there, and you're back off to the races. You know.
Yeah. So in terms of the games, then, so I've gone Villa versus Man City. I'm going I score Villa win. What we got? Brentford Forest draw. Ipswich Newcastle. I know the Toon have been having a great time at the moment, but I think the Tractor Boys might derail that. And I've got Ips. If I was a betting man, I've got Ipswich double chance. So Ipswich draw or win. I think West Ham will beat Brighton. I think Arsenal will return to some form away at Palace. I know it's hard going there in an evening, Saturday evening, but I think Arsenal will return some form at Palace and get a win.
Scoreline?
Statistically, I actually think Arsenal now have got the best defence in the league in terms of XG conceded. And when you're not conceding XG, you're generally not conceding goals over the last 5 games. So I think Arsenal win 2-0, 3-0. I can't say. Palace might score, but if they do, it'd be against what Arsenal have been doing recently. I think Chelsea will rattle a few Arsenal fans because after last Saturday's 0-0 draw, Chelsea will go to Everton and absolutely annihilate them, and all Arsenal fans will have a meltdown because we couldn't score one. I think Fulham will put Southampton to the sword. Southampton are going to beat Derby's record of 11 points. Southampton will get less than 11 points, I reckon. That's how bad they are. I think Wolves and Leicester draw. I think Bournemouth beat Man United. And I think Tottenham versus Liverpool, will be sit back, get the popcorn out, and watch an absolute goal fest, which is a toss-up.
You know, this might be the weekend of the memes, right? Because you might get an Amarim head and hands. You might get Ange bent over, no Diddy, and you might get Pep with scratches on his head. Like, I mean, this could be a memeable weekend for the ages. So check in here next week. If there's any memeable images, we'll have them next week on the show for you. Holiday festive period. Oh, I meant to say, Nigel, this is very important for some of our friends in the group chat. Don't forget to get your nan a present. Don't forget to get your nan a present. Shout out to Aaron, to Adam's nan, who watches the show every week religiously. Hey, like, comment, subscribe. Give us your moment of the week. Hey, give your friends the best Christmas gift that you can give them. Send them a link to the show. Let them know to get a present for their nan and send them the gift of the We All Follow podcast. Until next time, I'm Matt Fox. That's Nigel B. We'll talk to you soon.